How's everybody doing out there tonight? Clover King Turkey Slayer. I hear you. We're slaying them on the trophy clover. I'll tell you that. My favorite thing to hunt turkeys on trophy clover plot. Let a few more people join in here, and we'll get this fired up for the night, guys. Talking about fertilizer, so it shouldn't take too long to talk about it. Hopefully there's some good questions and stuff here. Anybody have any questions, feel free to ask. So already got a few questions coming in on the phone already. People that can't join on. Who's all out there tonight? How you guys doing? Actually, I kind of got a little teaser here actually for you guys tonight. Something happened a couple days ago that, man, has me going crazy. I don't know who's saying what's up, Robbie. It just says Facebook user, but what's up, babe? Danny Robinson, good to see you on here, bud. Had a guy ask if he can mix clover fuel plot max. Absolutely. One pass application, best way to do it. You can also mix both them right in with your herbicides too. But no, like I was saying, I got a little teaser here tonight that I'm pretty excited over actually. Let's just say it's something that I found that I've been looking forward to finding it for, it's the 5th year. So all right, before we get into the little teaser here, let's just go ahead and talk about some fertilizer. And again, Mark Coleman, good to see you on here, bud. For any of you guys joining in new, feel free to ask all the questions you want. That's what I'm here for. I'll help you out in any way I can. So no matter if I'm talking about this fertilizer, the topic, ask me any question you want. It doesn't have to be fertilizer related. So, but the big thing right now is, we've kind of went over, preparing your soil. We kind of went over frost seeding, overseeding, planting your perennial plots over the last month or so. But then it comes to you're getting into the fertilizer part of it. And probably one of the biggest mistakes I see most people use, especially on a perennial plot, they will just go out and buy like a triple 12, triple 13, something like that, and put on their clover. The best thing you can do is stay completely away from, or at least the lowest amount of nitrogen you can. But I like a 0 nitrogen because that clover is going to produce its own nitrogen. That clover just needs potash. That's all it needs. Something like a 0060, 02020. That is the best thing ever to use when it comes to a clover, alfalfa, soybeans, stuff like that. That's all it needs. You do not have to pour that nitrogen to it. When you pour that nitrogen to it, all you're doing is feeding the weeds and grasses. So then perennial plots like that, stay away from that. If you look on the back of our bags, like our trophy clover bag, you're going to see something like a 5, 15, 30 is what we recommend. A lot of these mixes were very common, but over the past few years, you're starting to notice a lot of the mixes lot of co-ops aren't carrying them. Hard to get, very expensive. All your fertilizer is expensive. Your lime's expensive. Everything now is just going crazy, like everything else is. But I mean, 51530 used to be easier to find than a 0060. Now a 0060 you can find in a lot of your landscape stores and even Menards, places like that will even have it. So the 0060, if I had my choice, that would be what I'd put on my perennial plots, as in my clovers, my alfalfa, stuff like that. A lot of times if you can't find it, you can find a 02020, which is perfect. I'm running about 300 pounds per acre, and that's just what I like to go with. So just because it says on our bag what we recommend doesn't mean we can't switch that around to help you out if you can't find it. So just let us know and give us a holler and we'll help you out. Scuba Steve, good to see you on here, Bubba. But now when you get into your annual plots, let's say your honey hole, your slam dunk, fall, winter, spring, stuff like that, even down to our barricade, which is our shielding type product, shield and bedding type product. Them are species that love nitrogen. You want to pour the nitrogen to them, and don't pour it to them so much that you burn them. Make sure that when you're pouring that nitrogen to them, you got a lot of moisture and getting some good moisture. You don't want to burn them plants. But something like a 1919 works excellent. You get in there with some rhea if you're getting the moisture and you know how to apply it and put it down without burning the plants. You can use it. But a 1919 will be the perfect fertilizer for any of the annual mixes, the grade 8, honey hole, slam dunk, southern greens, fall, winter, spring, any of them like that, grade 8, any of them, it's going to be the perfect one, 1919. If you can't find the 1919, drop down to your 1313, 1212. But if you can get that 1919, that's going to give them plants exactly what they need. So kind of stick with that 1919 if you can. And one thing about the fertilizer, let's say our barricade, which is our shield and our barricade type product, that product loves nitrogen. So if you can give a little bit more nitrogen throughout the year than what we actually recommend, we're recommending that 8-foot growth. That's the recommended rate that we're going with. So that's the application of fertilizer we're going with. Me testing it, I'll pour the nitrogen to it 3 or 4 times throughout the year. That's why my barricade's up there 12, 14 foot tall, because I pour it to them. And when you do that, you get bigger stalks, healthier stalks, stronger stalks. So don't be afraid to put it on there as long as you're getting good moisture. Them plants love nitrogen. So, but with us, we have our foiler fertilizers. We got our trusty Jolt, our Clover Fuel, and then we also have our Plot Max, which is a soil conditioner that we've already talked a lot about in the last couple of shows. That Clover Fuel is a 0028. These are products. One question I get asked a lot, can I use Clover Fuel on my clover plot and not put any granular down? Absolutely not. You can if you use a whole lot of it. But what this product here is designed for is to give them plants that boost they need. If you're getting in an area where, you're kind of getting a drought type situation, and that area where you want them plants to really give a good kickstart, you getting into an area where, let's say your clover, you're going in there and you're spraying it with clethodim to kill the grasses out. Even though that's a select herbicide, it's going to stun that clover some. When you mix in some Clover Fuel with that clethodim in that tank, it is actually going to help keep that plant from wilting as much. It's not going to hurt it as much. It's not going to stun it as long. So that's great products here. Even with the Jolt, I mean, if you're spraying cleth on your annual plots, you can mix that Jolt right in with that cleth, and you help them plants not stress as much as they would have if you didn't have that extra boost to them. So, but when it comes to germination, as implying either one of them prior to, even though they're a foiler fertilizer, you can put both of them on the ground prior to planting and help with that germination rate and everything. But I highly recommend using both these products after the plants reach 3 inches tall. So let them plants get up, get enough leaf cover and everything on them, where this product here will actually be able to adhere to it a lot easier. So the more you can get on that plant, the more it's going to be able to absorb in, the more it's going to get to the root system and do you good. So make sure that you let that plant get about 3 inches tall. Now with Jolt fertilizer, I'm usually doing 2 applications in the fall. I'll do one after it bumps up 3 inches tall, and then I'll do another one prior to hunting season. The clover fuel, my clover plots, I might go 30 bottles in them on a 2-acre clover plot throughout the season, just because I will spray it every time that I mow, and I will spray it every time when I fertilize. I mean, when I use a herbicide. So you don't have to do that. I just do that to make my plants as healthy as I can get them and get the most forage and the highest protein level and the most palatability for the deer. That's why I do it. So really, if you're wanting a good clover plot, you want to do it some good, give it 2 to 3 applications per season. It's going to do good for you. But I'm telling you, if you have some extra laying around, anytime you mow or spray herbicides, mix it in with it, and it's just going to give it a big jump start. Especially if you're in an area where you got a lot of weeds and stuff in a clover plot and you're mowing it, try to take care of the weeds. When you mix some clover fuel, get that clover fuel on there, and it actually helped them plants give it a good kickstart, jump back up a lot faster, growing faster, and outgrow a lot of them weeds. So awesome product just for that. But again, like you're saying, you're seeing the Plot Max here too. That's our soil conditioner. It is not, the reason I put it up here, I get asked a lot if it's fertilizer. It is not a fertilizer. It's a soil conditioner made to break down that soil. It works hand in hand with your fertilizers, but it is not a straight fertilizer. So it's actually humic acid. So again, the Jolt here, you're looking for something in your annuals, like actually the grade 8, the Lights Out, Southern Greens, Honey Hole, Slam Dunk, Fall, Winter, Spring, all them right there. That's for your Jolt. You're looking at the clover fuel. You're looking at Game Changer Clover, Red Zone, Trophy Clover, Booner Buffet. You know, them perennial type plots. Plus the Red Zone is not a perennial, but it can be used for a spring or fall planting. But it is a legume plant. So that's where the clover fuel is strictly for your legumes. So now a lot of people ask me in our trophy clover, they'll say, well, you got chicory mixed in with there, and you got a brassica for the first year that you use them for nurse crop. How are these going to grow very well when I'm not putting any nitrogen down with my fertilizer? Key thing is that clover is going to produce the nitrogen for them. It's going to suck it in from the atmosphere, stick it into the soil. That chicory is actually going to also be a nitrogen builder. So you actually got in the trophy clover, you got 5 species putting nitrogen into that soil. That's how it feeds them other plants, such as the brassica, which is a nurse crop. So don't worry about having a non-legume plant in a mix that needs nitrogen, because the ones that are in there that will produce the nitrogen for you, they're going to feed them plants. Mark Coleman, what are you saying here, bud? You want to know how much one bottle will cover for each. The Jolt fertilizer, you're looking at a 2-acre coverage. The clover fuel, you're looking at a 1-acre coverage. So you got a 1-acre coverage on the clover fuel that has a busted lid. You got a 2-acre coverage on the Jolt, and you got a 1/2-acre coverage on the Plot Max, which is a soil conditioner. So, and the good thing about the Jolt is the liquid here, the nitrogen based one, you will not burn a plant with it. So you don't have to worry about putting it on too heavy. You will not burn it. The clover fuel, you cannot burn a plant with it. Got people blowing this up here real quick. Well, while you guys are on here talking, I got a couple of questions here. We'll just answer right here that people's been sending over to me. See if it might help you guys out some. One we've already covered with the best fertilizer to use for your legume plots, your clovers, your alfalfas, stuff like that. Again, straight potash 0060, 02020, somewhere in there. You can't go wrong with it. That's going to be what I'm going to use every time. I go by the co-op by the ton, so I just have them dump it in my my trailer and shovel it out into the spreader. But that's the cheapest way actually to do it. But that's one we've already covered there. And the other one, he's asking about putting urea on barricade. Again, as long as you're getting moisture and you don't overdo it where you're going to burn them plants, absolutely. But make sure you get that on prior to a rain. You don't want it sitting there and burning them stalks up. Yes, Mark. Joel is 2 acres, Clover Fuel is 1 acre, and Plot Max is ½ acre. You're welcome, bud. All right, guys, you got any questions out there? I'll continue here. I still got that little teaser to show you here in a minute. You're all going to think I'm lying to you, but I'm not. Another one here. A lot of people think of the fertilizers we have on a lot of our bags here. They call them specialty fertilizers. And to some places that is a specialty fertilizer because usually a co-op's going to mix it for you. Some other ones, they're already pre-mixed in bags. But I have a gentleman here ask him where he can get the specialty type mixes of fertilizer at. Again, it's going to depend on where you live, where you're at. Like here where I'm at, I have a co-op, an ag co-op that's right down the road that will actually mix whatever I want. They will let me come in there with a shovel and 5-gallon buckets and scoop up and weigh myself out and pay for it that way. Like the, let's say the potash. I just went and got that ton of potash. You know, that ton of potash, well, let's start with this. I called around seeing where I could get some 0060 at, straight potash. And the cheapest place I could find was and the only place I could find in this area was actually at a lawn care place. And they wanted $60 for a 40-pound bag, which was unbelievable. I go to a co-op, they dump it in my trailer for me for $395 for a ton. So I got 2,000 pounds for under $400, and they wanted $60 a 50-pound bag, or 40-pound bag actually. Sorry, 40-pound bag. So checking in on places like that, you can save some money. Yeah, don't get me wrong. It's easier to rip open that top of that bag and dump it in that spreader than it is to pull your UTV or whatever you're using up there and shovel it into the hopper. Don't get me wrong. It is easier to dump it out of a bag, but for that kind of money savings, shovel it every time. So, but no, your co-op stuff like that. Now around here, we haven't had it for years. Just like 46% urea. Haven't seen that except for some co-ops. Now our rural king stores are carrying it at a pretty fair price for a 50-pound bag. Just noticed that this weekend. So I'm glad of that. Mark Coleman's asking if I planted all. Have you planted all your spring plots and your barricade? Mark, my spring plots have already been planted, bud. My spring plots are actually plots that I will actually overseed into. So all my existing clover plots are already done. This year, like I say, usually on a rotation, how I do mine, I don't frost seed into them till every 3rd year. This year, I didn't have to frost seed into any of them. Now, I did just overseed all my annual plots with some clover, the trophy clover, which I do every year. I'll just go in there. I won't touch the soil. I'll hand broadcast right in prior to a rain with these ground temps getting up. And I want that clover to grow there through the summer, and I will maintain it. It'll put all that nitrogen into the soil for my annual plots again this coming fall. So yeah, the plots are already done. Barricade, no. I always wait around here. You want that good 60 to 65 degree ground temp. So I know when the farmers are hitting the field putting beans in, I'm really close without even sticking a probe in the ground. So until I see that first farmer planting beans, I don't even probe it because I know the ground's too cold. So you want to make sure you get that ground temp up prior to planting that barricade. Scuba Steve planting his middle of May to end. Yep, exactly right, bud. You'll be in that. You'll be right there in that good ground temp. All right. Go through another question here. Some of these we've already answered, so I'm not even going to say them again. I say, guys, you got anything on there? Yell at me. Let me know what it is. I'll help you out in any way I can. We've kind of covered this one too. You know, what is our recommended rate of fertilizer per acre? It's going to depend on what the product is. You're usually in that 300-pound range per acre. But the good thing about us, if you grab one of our bags and you look on the back of one of our bags, any seed blend we have right here is going to tell you what our recommended fertilizer, the fertilizer we highly recommend, and the poundage per acre that we want you to use. And that's how, and the way we get that is by our testing facility to see how much fertilizer we need to get 100% growth out of them plants that we plant. Usually we're planting like 10 to 15 plants at a time. I don't need to get into all that, but so that's how we calculate that all out, to know what we need. So even if you have a real poor soil, the nutrients are way down. Usually if you do the recommended rate of like that 300 pounds per acre, even though your soil is pretty crappy, get your pH up. I'm not talking about your pH being crappy. I'm talking about the soil, the nutrients in your soil. Always make sure you get that pH up close to the 7 as you can. But even with a crappy nutrient level in your soil with a good pH, if you use that 300 pounds of the recommended, what we recommend, you're going to have a pretty good plot. Scott, good to see you on here, bud. Lives in northern New York. Best time to seed. What snow starts in October? You looking for a fall planting, bud, or are you looking for a spring planting this spring? What are you looking for, Scott? We got another one on here. And I apologize. It says Facebook user, but I don't know who you are. Barricade. When should it be planted in northern Pennsylvania? Should frost be totally done when planted? Yes, the barricade, it needs a good 60-degree ground temp. Do not plant it until that ground temp hits 60 degrees. So no matter what month that is, no matter what you're getting into, wait till that ground temp gets 60 degrees before you plant it. All right, Scott. Well, both, you know, really, if you're looking at spring plantings like your clovers, your alfalfa, stuff like that, your chicories, for a spring planting, long as you can get that ground broke, get that plot prepared, they're not going to germinate till they hit about 50 degrees, but that seed will lay there dormant. So if you happen to get a chance with Mother Nature allowing you to go out there, work your ground, get it ready to plant, and go ahead and seed it, them seeds will lay there dormant until that ground temp gets up and you'll start your germination process. Now, for the fall plots, you're probably looking a mid-July, excuse me, mid-July to about the 1st of August planting them. And it depends on what you're going to plant. Let's say, like, if you're going with something like our no-till, even our grade 8, our southern greens, stuff like that, you can get by with that middle of July to the first part of August up there in Pennsylvania, or New York, I'm sorry. And but now you want to get into your oats and stuff like that, like our lights out. I'd get in there about the middle to end of August before I planted them. Probably the end of August before I planted them. With your snows and stuff starting to come in October. You don't. The thing about it is you don't want to plant these mixes too early because you don't want them maturing out prior to a frost. So like our honey hole, slam dunk, stuff like that, you want to make sure that they're still in that growing state. So don't plant them too early. A lot of people think, well, I plant them earlier, they get bigger, they're more beautiful. But the bad thing about it is they mature out before a frost and they can get stemmy on you and maybe not turn as sweet as they should. So kind of stick with that middle of July to first part of August. And then like with your oats and stuff like that, and your cereal rise, I'd bump it back. I'd go to about, probably the 15th of August is the earliest to 1st of September. Scott, I appreciate it, bud. Hey, how's it going, Jason? Good to see you on here, bud. What's the best ways to prep the ground for fall annuals and when? Especially grade 8. With grade 8, you're going to have 8 different varieties in there. You're going to have 8 different seed sizes in there. What I'm looking at doing, I'm wanting to make sure I kill the vegetation off in that area. And this is going to be the way I would do it. You can do it a little bit easier ways here and there, but the way I'm going to do it, I'm going to kill that area off. I'm going to let it start dying. I'm going to disc the area up, work the ground. And then I'm wanting to get in there. Now, this is after already putting my line down and my fertilizer, stuff like that we've already talked about. This is just preparing the soil, the bed. But I'm going to go in there after I get done tilling it. I'm going to call to pack that area, and then I'm going to go ahead and broadcast my seed, and I'm going to call to pack it again. Now, with this, you will notice with call to packing ahead of time, you're going to set all them small seeds just perfect. The big seeds, you might have some still exposed. If you try doing the grade 8 and not compact them prior to planting, you're going to lose a lot of your smaller seeds. So I would rather have them smaller seeds doing better than the big ones that's in that mix, like the peas, because the deer are just going to destroy them anyway. So I'll always make sure that I will kill the area off with a herbicide, let it start dying. I'll work that in with the tiller or disc, whichever one I'm using, and then I will go in, call the pack, broadcast, and call the pack again. And with the one I was just talking about, it says Facebook user. Again, I apologize. I don't know who you are. You're asking when. Where are you from, bud? Where are you going to be planting this at? Do you believe you can overtill your plots? Is it wrong to disc your fall plots every year? No. I don't believe in that at all. One thing I will tell you, the more you disc, the more weed seeds you're going to bring to the top. So trying to get that bed prepared and a weed-free bed is a lot harder. I always want to, my biggest thing with discing is, or tilling, for a fall plot, I don't want to lose any nitrogen. So when I'm putting my granular on, I will always disc my fertilizer into the soil because it will allow the breakdown process to happen faster. You're not going to lose as much nitrogen to evaporation, and it builds the soil a lot better. But as in working the soil too much, no. Now you can work a plot and turn it to powder, and be the worst thing you could ever do is make it too fluffy. But actually just breaking ground, no, I don't have no issue at all breaking ground every year. Even though some of these mixes like honey hole, stuff like that, you can get by with still a good germination rate by doing a no-till type application. But if you do them side by side with a till and a no-till, till every year, just because it'd be so much more forage and a lot better. Okay, Central Wisconsin, the one asking when. Up there, again, I'm probably looking at, man, we've actually been testing up there middle of July right now, and doing very, very well because of the weather. So I always tell everybody, even Central Wisconsin, I tell them the 1st to the 15th of August, but you can get by a little earlier. You can get them planted a little bit later in July and still do very, very well and get that frost prior to them maturing out. So you can get into that, I'd say 3rd weekend of July to about the 15th of August. That's when I'd like to see them done. Make sure I didn't miss somebody here, guys. Sorry about this. Go on here asking if you can over cul-de-pack. You actually can. You know, I mean, I've had quite a few cul-de-packers over my time. A lot of big ag type cul-de-packers that are just too big and heavy for what I'm wanting. Uh, Now taking a cul-de-packer like the Packer Max that I use now, there's a lot of times I might go over that plot 2 or 3 different times in different directions, and packing it prior to planting. But you get into a lot of your bigger cul-de-packers, the big ag type, you can get a lot of weight there. Plus, it's going to take a big tractor to get on it, so it's going to add extra weight there. So, yeah, you can actually over cul-de-pack. So, you just want a nice, good, firm seed bed is what you're looking for. You don't want it rock hard. You just nice, firm seed bed, uh, and that cul-de-packer is going to help with moisture. It's going to help with everything. So. Scott's on here talking about old wives' tale. In New York, would you advise throwing some wildflower seed on the border of your food plots? Buddy, I know a lot of people that plant uh, wildflower seed for food plots. There is certain wildflowers that the deer just devour. The bad thing about it is they're usually pretty expensive when it comes to it. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's no issue with it. I mean, me personally, I mean, if you're talking about the border is in taking away some of the food to put the flowers in for a border, I wouldn't do it, because I want all the food I can get. So I'm going to run that clover or them turnips or whatever I'm planting, honey hole, whatever. I want to plant it over that border too. But if you have some wildflowers, like I say, there's quite a few of them that the deer will literally destroy. I remember uh, this wildflower program they have. My 12-acre field on my property, the farmer put it in there for a while, through that government or state deal, whatever it was. And I was upset he took my corn and beans out and put these flowers in there. Well, the first year they didn't do very well. The second year they exploded, and I cussed them flowers all the way till it got the first heavy frost on it, and that stuff started dying. And I never could figure out what plants they were, but there was 2 plants, flower plants, in that field that the deer will start on the top and eat it straight to the ground. I had more deer in front of me than I ever did with beans or corns in front of it. Them deer would destroy it, but they'd leave everything else standing. But there's 2 different stems that was left after the frost that you could tell were 2 different plants, and they would just destroy them. But natural browse for them, that's one of the deer's natural browse. Will it hurt to overseed clover and chicory? Absolutely. Worst thing in the world ever is to overseed a food plot with too much seed. So no matter if it's clover, if it's peas, if it's turnips, radishes, anything, it does not matter. It is the worst thing. You're starving that soil for nutrition. Uh, them plants are going to starve themselves. 90% of the time, if you plant it way too heavy, then plants will get up and look like a golf course, and you'll think you got the best looking plot in 9 counties around, and you come back a week later and it's deader than a doornail, or it's all yellow and starting to wilt. So then plants will starve each other. So if I had to pick a little heavy or a little light when I'm planting, I'll always go a little light on my seed mix. I'll never go heavy. If you think you're not putting enough seed down, you've already put 3 times too much down the ground. So it's about like fishing a worm, an old rubber worm. An old timer always told me, slow it down, you're going too fast. And I just barely moving it. He said, if you think you're going slow enough, you're going 3 times too fast. Same thing with seed. You'll be putting 3 times too much on there when you think you're not putting enough. So been there and done it. A living witness, it can happen. All right, let's see if we've got any more here on the messenger here. One right here. This is a very good one, actually. I've actually already messaged this guy and had a very good conversation with him over this one. He asked me that he's never took the time to check the pH of the soil. So he asked me if it'd be okay just for him to double the fertilizer amount. And pretty much, yeah, you can do that, but you're just throwing that money into the ground. That's all you're doing. The plants aren't going to be able to utilize it. You got to get that pH up. Our little pH test kit's $15, or even if you don't even buy one of them, get you a sample, take it to a co-op, spend $10, have them send it off, analyze it for you, see what your pH is, how much lime it's going to take to get that pH built back up. So your plants can only utilize 100% of the fertilizer you put out there for them if that pH is at a 7.0. Anything under that, you start losing it. So, they're losing 35% of the fertilizer you're putting on at a 5.5 pH. So why throw that money away? So again, yeah, you can double the amount of fertilizer, but you're absolutely doing nothing at all. So it's you're just actually wasting money. So if you can get out there, check that pH. It'll be the best thing you can ever do when it comes to building a successful food plot. And you'll thank me for it later. If you planted for years without doing it, I promise you'll thank me later. Jason is asking, what's the best fertilizer besides Plot Max? Actually, Jason, Plot Max is actually a soil conditioner. It's not a fertilizer. It's humic acid. So the top dress, that trophy clover, you're definitely going with the clover fuel here, bud. That is the number one. That's the best product we came out with in 10 years. I'm telling you right now. I was so excited in 2018 when that came out. Everybody knows what kind of a nut I am when it comes to clover. Scuba Steve, you're exactly right. Less is more to a point. All right, while you guys are thinking of some questions, I want to show you something. Now, I've been looking for something. Scuba, I hear you, yeah. Yeah, I like clover, all right, but I've been looking for something for 5 years. And I stumbled on it, what, Saturday? Yeah, Saturday. What is today? Tuesday, Saturday. By mistake, wasn't looking for it. All right. Now, don't laugh at this shed. Don't laugh at it. It's a little booger. Here's my little drop tine shed. Got some junk all around the bases. Little tiny burger. Got another one coming off here. This is just a little shed. You gotta turn around. That's a little shed that I found. I watched that deer one hunting season. And I watched him for 5 years since then. Last 2 years, I've been trying to kill this deer and I can't get him killed. And he disappeared. He has a hiding spot that me and none of the neighbors can find him. And then he comes back usually a day or two after season. So as of walking out of the woods turkey hunting, I stumbled across this year's shed. And this is on a property that I can't use mineral. I can't use blocks. I can't supplemental feed. It's strictly agriculture around me. And then I pour the trophy clover to them. I pour the honey hole and slam dunk. That's pretty much the only thing that ever gets planted on this farm except for barricade. And it has for many years now. I've watched this deer. I've got video. I've got trail cam picture after trail cam picture and videos that this makes me sick that I can't get this deer shot. And I want 2 bags. I think he's starting to go downhill. This year, he actually did go downhill some from last year. And none of us have ever been able to find the sheds. I'm the first one to find the shed since that one. And it's stupid. But this is my buddy here. He's got the one drop here. He had another one here that he just broke off. He broke it off early in the season, but just a whole bunch of trash. I almost stepped on it coming through the field. and I wasn't even looking for it. That is like winning the lottery for me. Stacy asked me at night, what are you getting? Why are you taking that down there? I said, that's show and tell right there. I was wound up. I sent that to 9 million people thinking I finally found what I was looking for. I would have gave anything to have last year's. I looked and looked for the other side. Usually on a rack that big and heavy, they're going to drop the other one pretty quick. I cannot find it. But this is a side I really wanted just because that little drop on him that he started. And then to see what he turned out to. Again, you're looking at something that I wish I could use minerals and supplemental feed and stuff like that. But again, when you're running trophy clover, you're running it with the chicory inside of it. It's got the vitamins and minerals it needs inside that plant. You're getting all the high protein out of the trophy clover. You're getting all the energy food source through the annuals. It's that simple, guys. When I know we're talking about fertilizers, but it's that simple to give your deer what they need, even if you can't do it by supplemental feeding or using minerals. I mean, that trophy clover bag right there, the honey hole and the slam dunk, I will never own a farm, never have a farm without them planted on it every year. That is my go-to. And I got everything else to plant. Them are my go-tos because I know the energy level is coming out of it. I know the fiber, I know the protein. Number one, no, actually number two, I should say, is the tonnage. I know that the plants are actually offering. So, and don't get me wrong, that deer eats everywhere. He eats in the cornfield, ag field. He's getting energy, he's getting protein out there in the beans too. But I know how much time he spends during the growing season in them food plots, which is usually twice a day, all through the season until he sheds velvet. Then he disappears, and then he comes back for about a month of hunting season. I can't get him killed, and November comes, he's gone. Every year it does it. Every year. So, so I know them plots are definitely helping. I know just by the size of the deer that's on it, not meaning rack size, but actually meaning body size. And but you know, I did seminars this year in for the open season show circuit. Each one I did there, and at the end of each one, I put on there a picture of the biggest doe I ever shot off one of my farms that field dressed 173 pounds. And that deer means more to me than anything, just because I seen what that farm was 20 years ago when I got it, and not be able to use any supplemental feed, no bait, no nothing like that, no minerals, to see what the food plots actually did for that deer herd and see the fawns being born bigger, the does are healthier, the slicker coats, you know, the bucks were getting bigger horns on them, bigger body structure, or antlers on, sorry. But so I really push the protein and energy when it comes to a place that you cannot, or even if you cannot afford the, you know, supplemental feeding is very, very expensive. It's not for all of us, believe me. If you want to do it right, it's crazy. I mean, you get a lot of money. And the biggest downfall of it, and a lot of people, they do it to themselves, they will go out and see, oh man, I can feed, but I'm not going to feed. And all of a sudden it's 30 below zero. And they're like, well, we're going to go out there and buy a whole bunch of feed and pour it out for them. And then when that's gone, it's done. That's harder on them deer than just leaving them alone. Because them deer, I mean, it's instinct for them to go to their natural browse, try to survive. But when we start just giving them a little bit of food to help them survive and then take it away from them and not give it back to them, that throws them for a loop. So if you're going to supplemental feed and stuff like that, especially in the severe times, weather times of the year, make sure you continue doing it. Don't stop it just a couple days and stop. Make sure you continue doing it, because I mean, I have a lot of guys call me and say, man, I poured out a bag of that rack maker and it was 20 below zero out. So the deer were pulling up the ground the next day trying to find more of it. They're back there trying to find more of it, so they're looking for it because they just had, and that energy is keeping them warm and all this and that, and all of a sudden you take it away from them, that body temp goes right back down, and the deer, you know, they're starving. So it's better to leave them alone if you can't continue to do it. Oh, let's see here, guys. I gotta see what we got here. See, I missed a few here. I missed a bunch of them here while I was talking. Did you say Plot Max has an acid base? Plot Max is humic acid. Going here, would you prefer to plant your clovers in the fall or fall or spring? What grows best? I always plant my clovers in the spring. The number one reason why is I love to maintain my plots. So it gives me something to do because when you plant them in the spring, you're going to have some maintenance to do them plots because of weeds and grasses. Um, but when I plant a plot, I want to have the most tonnage there the first year that I can get. So your tonnage by planting a spring planting to a fall planting is going to be about triple what it would have been on the fall planting. So I want the most out of it. But again, if you're looking, what I want to call it the easy way, you can plant in the fall where a lot of your weeds and grasses are going to start going dormant. So you're not going to have a lot of clover growth, but you're not going to have a lot of weed and grass growth either. So when it flourishes that second year, it can outgrow a lot of them weeds and grasses quicker. But I highly recommend planting them in the spring just to get the most growth out of them. But you will have weeds and grasses to deal with a lot more than you would with the fall planting. What would you recommend to plant in a fairly heavy clay soil? It just depends on what you're looking for there. With me, one of my properties is real heavy clay. I don't have a problem growing anything in clay, as long as I'm working the soil. I'm dumping the plot max to it, breaking that soil down. I can plant about anything and get it to grow, and grow very well. But you get into more like the no till mixes. It grows very well. The Game Changer clover as a no till application, it grows very well. Uh, the bad thing about clay is it just gets so darn hard. Is the only negative thing about it. But that plot max will actually help break that soil up and retain moisture in the whole 9 yards. I got somebody asking, does the plot max acid affect the pH and the addition of lime? You're going to read on the bottle, it will say that it will raise your pH or spike your pH, which is true. It's not a so-called liquid calcium, nothing like that. It's humic acid. Humic acid will spike that pH, but it's very, very short-lived and will only spike it a very small amount, maybe a point. Um, but it's very short-lived. It is not made to replace lime. I highly recommend the use of ag lime or pelleted lime. I'm a pelletized lime guy. That's what I want to use, but it will not take the place of lime. Doug Lamb, good to see you on here, bud. Jason's on here asking, do you use a cover crop with your clover in the spring? With our trophy clover, Jason, I do not, because it's already got the chicory in there and it's already got the brassica variety in there to help with the weed and grass issues you're going to have. And it helps shade out them plants in them hot summer months. So I don't. If it did not have them in there, I definitely would. But with ours, it's already mixed in, just like our Game Changer clover. It's got a variety in there too for a nurse crop. So to answer your question, yes, I do, because it's already mixed in with it. And if it wasn't, I'd mix it in. Check here real quick. We're getting close on time. I'll make sure. I got guys popping stuff up here, guys. I told them the last time, make sure you put it on, send me on Messenger if you want something. They started blowing that thing up today. But again, we're kind of going over a bunch of them already, so I'm not having to talk about them twice. I think we pretty much covered all that stuff. Anybody else got a question out there we can talk about? We can, if I don't know the answer, I'll make one up for you. How about that? Danny Robinson, you still on here? He must have already fell asleep. Oh, there he is. How's the food plots going this year? You getting anything planted yet? You getting too much rain out there? If I fill into clover, what is the best method from start to finish? Jason, if it was me, I'm going to kill that area off. Got to kill it off. Make sure it's killed off. Disc or till that dead debris into the soil. Give that organic matter to that soil. Work in your fertilizer, your lime. Make sure you get that tested. Number one thing is test that pH. Get that pH up. But then work that lime and fertilizer in. Compact that soil with a Colapacker or roller, tire roll it in, whatever, broadcast and pack it again. That is the easiest way ever to do it. And but always make sure that you pack that soil. I mean, you got to seed on top of a firm seed bed. Scuba? No, I can't even get the old lady to cook me breakfast. So it's probably a good thing we live so far apart from each other, because I'll probably have you cook me breakfast every morning. I'd even pay you for it. Breakfast, that is. That's awesome, Danny. Check your clover, check green alfalfa. They're almost a foot tall. Man, it's the same way here, but they're going crazy with this rain and warm weather we had. All right, Jay, you're going to be doing minimum tools, 3/4 of an acre. I mean, if you get in there, or is it a sunny area, Jason, or not? Sunny, shaded? What are we looking at? Yeah, Danny, I hear you hitting it with a mower. It was kind of funny turkey hunting. I have not noticed it till this year. I actually have my Jake decoy that I use. I got a real turkey fan on it, and then I got chalk lines hooked to it, the front of it, with an extra stake, and I run them back to the blind, and I can turn that decoy. So then birds see it coming out a long ways. You turn it, they come running to it. And they see that tail fan spinning, that Jake fan. And my clover's too tall. I had to cut the chalk boxes off of it the last 2 hunts, because I can't get my clover's too tall and thick. It wants to bind up in the clover. And you don't want them ropes, even though I got them painted brown, them little chalk line strings, even they're brown, them turkeys can see that string like it's nothing. So you want them all the way onto the ground. So when they're up on top of that clover, it looks like a big old spider web going across. So I finally end up having to cut them off there, because that clover is so tall. And this is the first year in many years I've seen that. Jason, with a sunny slope facing south, you can get in with our no sweat mix, even using a garden till, I mean, a still rake, a leaf blower, getting area cleaned off. Even our honey hole, if you get in the plenty sun, the honey hole, would be a very easy one to grow, get good germination with minimum till. Or if you're wanting to do some kind of spring planting, as in like the Game Changer clover for a spring planting, they all work very well with very minimal till, just a steel rake, blow it off the leaf blower, whatever. Somebody asked me, at what point do I mow my clover? I will mow my clover anytime I have a weed issue that I can take care of by mowing and not using a herbicide. I'll mow it then. But you have to mow your clover when it flowers. So anytime you see that flower come on that clover, you want to get it topped. Get it, knock it down to where it's only 6 to 8 inches tall. And the reason why is your clover, when it matures out, it gets real stemmy. It's not as palatable. It's at least protein level. So you want to bounce that back around. You cut it, it goes that highest protein, more palatable. It's just so much better, and it gets more lush instead of that stemmy stalk. So always make sure that you mow it then when it flowers. But again, you can mow that clover as much as you want to help with weed control. It does not matter. As long as you got plenty of moisture, you're not going to burn your plot up. You can mow it as much as you want to help with weed control. Jason, a spring planting, you're welcome, bud. That Game Changer clover, you can't beat it. That Game Changer clover will be your best friend, especially with minimum till. All right, guys, we got 2 more minutes. Anything else out there? I can help you in any way I can. I appreciate you guys all being on here tonight. That's right, Danny. Yeah, mow them plots and hit it with clover fuel afterward. That's the way you want to do it. You're welcome, Jason. I appreciate you being on here, bud. You too, bud. Have a good night. Have a good rest of your week, and we're gonna try to shoot a couple more turkeys. And I don't know. I'm ready for deer season now. I'm almost tagged out on turkeys. I only got 2 more tags left, so I'm ready for some deer. Let this big old boy here make me have a lot more sleepless nights this year. So, Scott, you're very welcome. Anytime you need anything, please reach out. I'm more than happy to help you in any way I can, but I appreciate you being on here tonight. All right, guys, it's 9 o'clock. We got to get off here. Well, I guess it's 9 o'clock your guys' time. It's 8 o'clock my time. But again, you need anything, get a hold of me. Have anything you really want to talk about, or any kind of other new topics or something that might be off the wall, send me a message. Let me know. I mean, I can always throw a different little topic in here and there if it's something you'd really like to hear about sooner than later. I'm just kind of going down the steps right now with each one of these shows as the next step coming up at the time of year we're in. But I'm more than happy to flop one of them around or add one to another one to help you guys out for something you might want to know for later on in the year. So, Danny Robinson put his minerals and cotton candy out today. Man, I wish we could do that, man. I'd give anything to do that in Illinois, but it won't happen. But all right, guys, you have a great night, and I appreciate it again, you guys all being on here, and we'll talk to you here in a couple of weeks. Take care.